No, I did not get these beads the traditional way. I bought them at a party supply store. Okay? Rude. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marta and I am the chef and author of Sense and Edibility, a site where I teach you everything I know about cooking, baking, and cocktail making. And today I am teaching you how to bake king cake for Mardi Gras. Yay! First, a little history on what king cake is. Some people call it king's cake, some people call it king cake. King cake is actually not just a Louisiana or Gulf state thing. The Spanish or Hispanic cultures also have their version of a king cake called rosca de reyes. There's also galette de roy in French. All three king cakes are prepared differently, but they all have the same concept. Now, if you're not familiar with Mardi Gras translates to Fat Tuesday. It's also called Shrove Tuesday, and it is the Tuesday before Ash Wednesday, which is the start of the Lenten season in the Christian faith. Lent is basically a 40-day period that leads up until Easter, where we stop acting like heathens. We fast from something, usually to remember the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Some people fast from cussing, some from social media, some from drinking, some from eating certain things. In Hector's family, because my family, we were a bunch of heathens, but in Hector's family, usually meat was abstained from on Fridays, which is the case with most people that I know that observe Lent. Usually they only eat fish. Mardi Gras is basically a last hurrah before Lent starts. Mardi Gras is when you get all your heathen ways out by partying, by drinking, by parading, by earning beads in a certain way in the French Quarter. Again, I bought these beads. But king cake is a part of Mardi Gras. Usually when people have Mardi Gras parties, they have a king cake, and whoever finds the baby Jesus in the king cake that year becomes the king of Mardi Gras or the queen of Mardi Gras, but they are also charged with bringing the king cake to next year's Mardi Gras parties. I do not include a baby in my king cake because I almost choked on one time. So it's trauma for me, so I just avoid it. But you can always add a baby Jesus to your king cake. Just like tuck it under your king cake so that nobody chokes on it. That would suck if somebody came to your Mardi Gras party and choked on a baby Jesus. I feel like that's sacrilegious. That's why I don't involve it. But the colors of the Mardi Gras king cake are the colors of Mardi Gras, which are green, purple, and gold. Gold obviously symbolizes money, but it is meant to symbolize power in the Mardi Gras season. Purple represents justice, and green represents faith. So we have justice, faith, and power represented in the king cake. Now, my king cake has two fillings. One is a cream cheese filling, and one is a cinnamon sugar filling. We don't usually have Mardi Gras parties. I make a king cake like in June. I don't care. Whenever I get the craving for it, I'll make it. I want to show you how to make a king cake for Mardi Gras in case you decide to celebrate it this year. Before we get to that, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel and sign up for notifications so that you can get notified whenever I post a new video like this one. And in the meantime, laissez les bon temps rouler, which is French Cajun for let the good times roll. I always start by coloring my sanding sugar, which is what I use to decorate the top of my king cake with. Now this is the simplest decoration you can use because it's the easiest one to make at home. All you need is white sanding sugar, which you can buy online, gel paste food coloring. You don't want to use the liquidy stuff that they sell in the baking aisle at the grocery store because that will just dissolve your sanding sugar. Add 2 to 3 drops of the gel coloring paste to your bag of sugar and just manipulate it. Shake it, squish it, move it around until the sugar is evenly colored. Now, the colors of Mardi Gras are purple, green, and gold. So what I usually use is either regal purple or violet, leaf or Kelly green, and gold. You can also use yellow if you can't find gold. Just shake these all around I'm using a freezer storage bag because it's more durable than the regular sandwich bags, but you can also use the sandwich bags. Now you can use these to decorate your king cake, or you can use non-pearls, which are just like pearls. You can use sprinkles, or you can just leave your king cake naked. It doesn't matter. Now what you're going to have to do after you color your sanding sugar is dry it out, because as you can see by my fingers right now, if you were to use it right away, it's going to clump up because it's still wet from the gel food coloring. So what I do is I lay it on some parchment paper and I let it air dry for a day. And that's all you need for decorating your king cake. Now for the actual king cake, we're going to start by mixing the sponge. And what we're going to do is add 2 cups, which is about 260 grams of bread flour, to a bowl along with a tablespoon of granulated sugar. We're going to add active dry yeast and warm milk. This milk needs to be about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to mix these together until it forms a very thick paste. This is going to be almost dough consistency. Once we have that paste, we're going to cover the bowl with a clean kitchen towel and we're going to put it in a microwave or cool oven for 30 minutes until it puffs up and looks like this. This is our sponge or our starter. Now, to make the rest of the bread dough, we're going to take unsalted butter at room temperature, the remaining granulated sugar, and we are going to beat these with the paddle attachment of a KitchenAid at second or third speed. It's going to be like medium low. You're going to beat these until it creams together. This usually takes about 4.5 minutes. Scrape down the bowl 2 or 3 times while it's mixing so that everything is fully incorporated and you don't have chunks of butter hanging out like on the side of the bowl or whatever. Once the butter and sugar are nice and creamy, you're going to turn the mixer down to low and you're going to add all of the eggs. Now what's going to happen is the liquid in the eggs is going to screw up the balance of the fat and it's going to look curdled like this. This is perfectly normal. Stop the mixer, add all of the sponge or the starter that you created earlier, and blend this in at second speed, medium low, until it combines. And it's going to look like a thick paste. Scrape down the bowl again. It's very important when you're working with doughs to always scrape down the paddle and the bowl so that everything mixes properly. Now, attach the dough hook and add 3 cups of bread flour, ground cardamom, and the salt to the rest of the ingredients in the bowl. And then you're going to blend these in at second speed. Now, check out how you see little flecks of dough on the side of the bowl. That means the dough is too wet because it's been raining here a lot in Texas. So I'm adding a 1/2 cup more flour. And now you'll see that the side of the bowl is super clean. Depending on how humid your area is, you may have to add more or just the right amount of flour. So that's how you know, that's your indicator. Now, once the dough has mixed or kneaded for 10 minutes, you're going to form it into a ball, grease the bowl, add the ball of dough back into the mixing bowl, and then grease the top so it doesn't get all dry and crunchy, and proof it or allow it to rise for 1 hour or until it's doubled in bulk. And then you're going to squeeze out and dispel or, disperse the gases that have built up. Form the dough back into a ball and return it to a greased bowl. Grease the top again so it doesn't get all dry and gunky. Cover the bowl with plastic wrap so it's nice and sealed, and then refrigerate the dough for at least 3 hours. This gives it a nice flavor. So while the dough is refrigerating, let's make the cinnamon sugar mixture. You're going to need room temperature butter, brown sugar, and ground cinnamon, and you're just going to blend it until it is nice and smooth like so. Set this to the side. And for the cream cheese filling, you're going to need room temperature cream cheese, sifted powdered sugar, lemon juice, and vanilla extract. And again, blend it on medium-low until it's nice and creamy and smooth. I wonder if you guys can hear the rain. It's raining so hard right now. Now, after the dough has sat in the refrigerator for 3 hours, you're going to press it out. And then you're going to use a knife, or this is called a bench scraper, to divide the dough into 2 equal parts. Take one of those halves and cover it in plastic wrap so it doesn't dry out while we're working with the other half, and set that to the side. And you want to lightly flour your working surface and the top of the dough as well. And what we're going to do is roll this out. Now, you don't have to roll it out to exact measurements, but you do want it to be longer than it is wider. I'm going to roll this out to about 2 feet by, I'm going to say like 4 feet. I'm not really good with math, but yeah, you want it longer than it is wider. Brush off as much of this flour as you can, and then take the cinnamon sugar schmear and put it onto the dough. What you're going to do is use an offset spatula to smear a very thin layer of this cinnamon sugar schmear. I like saying the word. Just let me have my good times. But leave a 1-inch margin. It can be a little bit bigger on one long end of the dough. That way you can seal the dough after you're done rolling it up like I'm doing. Now, I'm not making this a tight roll because I don't want my king cake to burst as it bakes. So just roll it loosely. Pinch the seam to the body of the tube. And then this is why you brush off the flour, because my seam is not sealing properly. Now stretch it out so that it's all like even. There's no bulges or bulkier parts. And you're just going to repeat the same process with the cream cheese filling. Spread out a thin layer with an offset spatula, leaving that 1-inch margin so you can seal your dough later. If you notice that uncovered edge has some flour on it, and it's probably not going to seal properly again because I'm being lazy. Don't be lazy. Don't be like me. Learn from my mistakes. Roll it up loosely and then pinch the seams. What I tell you, it's falling apart. See? I'm here to teach you because I care. All right. Now that you have 2 rolls or 2 tubes, you're going to twist them. Kind of like you're just, twisting your hair or something, or twisting a bit of yarn. Make sure the seam is on the bottom, because when you're baking it, you don't want it to bust open. Now, I don't have a pan big enough, so what I do is I invert a sheet pan, put some parchment over it, and then I arrange my king cake tube twist on top of it. Now, once you have it all formed, try to get it into a nice oval shape, and then cover it with a clean kitchen towel and allow it to rise for 35 minutes to 40 minutes. And while you're waiting for it to rise, go ahead and make your egg wash. This just requires a large egg yolk and a tablespoon of cold water. Just beat it together until it's nice and runny and no clumps remain. And once your bread has proofed for 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to first use the egg wash to seal the ends of the king cake together so it doesn't come apart. Any end of the dough you want to seal. And then use the rest of that egg wash to brush all over the king cake. This gives your king cake a nice glossy finish while it bakes and once it's baked. Now you want to bake it in a 350 degree oven, 177 degrees Celsius for 30 to 35 minutes or until it comes out like this. Now to make the glaze, you're going to take sifted powdered sugar, light corn syrup, or you can use honey for this. I like to use light corn syrup because I don't want my glaze to be too dark. Vanilla extract. You can also use almond extract or lemon juice, and melted butter. And you're going to use hot water, but you're going to use hot water in increments. I like my glaze to be pretty thick, so I'm going to add another tablespoon of hot water, and I'm going to whisk it until it looks like this. It leaves ribbons behind. Now, if you prefer a thinner glaze, you're going to add more water, or you can also add warm milk. It accomplishes the same thing. So now that you have your glaze made, you're going to pour it over your baked king's cake. I always pour it over my king cake while it's sitting on a cooling rack, just in case I want to reuse the glaze to add more to my king cake. And then you're going to take that colored sanding sugar and decorate your king cake. I always decorate it in a pattern. So I do green, gold, and purple. You can do, whatever pattern you want. It doesn't, like, this part isn't that serious. Just make it look cute. You went through all the trouble to make the sanding sugar, so use it. Now, it's important to not add your sanding sugar immediately after you pour the glaze, because the glaze is still going to be runny and you're going to lose a lot of your sanding sugar. But it's also important not to wait too long to put the sanding sugar on, or you're going to have to press it into the glaze because it's already formed a shell. So this is the finished king cake. It goes a lot quicker on this video, but it looks gorgeous and it tastes even better. So I do hope you make it for your Mardi Gras. So we have our cream cheesy side and our cinnamon side. I mean, I didn't cut it spectacularly, but you know, it tastes good. It's so important and so worth it to let the dough ferment and to let that sponge do its thing, because it gives your king cake a deeper flavor. But I'm gonna take another bite, and then I'm gonna come back and answer some frequently asked questions I get about this king cake recipe. One of the biggest questions that I get about my king cake recipe is, why does it take so long to make? And that's because I like flavor. The process of fermenting or creating a sponge for your bread adds so much flavor to whatever bread you're making, whether it's a sourdough or it's an enriched dough like king cake is. I always use a sponge. I always try to ferment the dough for as long as possible. Sometimes I'll even go overnight. You don't have to retard the sponge in the refrigerator for, up to 3 hours. You don't have to retard it at all. I mean, it is going to be quite frustrating because the dough is so rich that it's going to be very soft and almost mushy. So retarding the dough in the refrigerator for at least an hour is recommended. But I guarantee you that using a sponge at the beginning of your bread making process and fermenting or retarding the dough for at least 3 hours is going to pay dividends in flavor. But no, you don't have to do it. This is another question that I get asked that I'm kind of like, I'm really impressed by some people, because my family is so greedy. We will tear through this within 2 days. We will eat it for breakfast, we'll eat it as dessert, and then we'll eat it for breakfast again, and usually it's gone. It's served 16 because it's meant to be a party bread. It's meant to be served at parties. But We should get 4 meals out of that. We should get like 2 desserts and 2 breakfasts, but we only get, wow. So we're greedy. If you're not as greedy as we are, if you have some couth and some like restraints, you can always divide the recipe for this king cake in half. The only issue that you're gonna find that's not easy to be divisible, I know I can speak English, is the eggs. So I would go with 2 eggs instead of 3 eggs because this still needs to be an enriched dough, and the eggs are what tenderizes the dough, it adds structure to the dough, and it adds flavor to the dough. So yeah, you can divide it in half if you're not greedy like us. And kudos to you for not being greedy. But technically this is a Mardi Gras recipe, so you can be greedy. It's okay. Yeah. You don't have to make your sanding sugar at home. You can always buy it. They sell it in the stores. They sell it at cake supply shops. They sell it online. You can also use sprinkles, Mardi Gras sprinkles. But I like to make my sanding sugar because it's just easier and I always have what I need. I recognize that not everybody has a whole supply of cake decorating stuff. Buy your sanding sugar at the store, at the cake supply store, or don't top it with sanding sugar at all. You don't have to, but it is fun, right? I mean, it looks cute. It's nice. You can make mini king cakes. I find that they're not worth the effort though. I would rather just, make a whole one and then just slice it. It's just a lot more work and it's harder to form and twist the individually rolled strands to make little tiny king cake buns. So I would just slice it and call it a day. I actually had this question, and it was a very interesting question because somebody wanted to know if they could flavor the cream cheese. And I think that's a genius idea. The way I would do it is if you want to make more of a lemony cream cheese, add a tablespoon of lemon zest with the lemon juice. If you want to make something like he wanted to make, which was a strawberry cream cheese filling, take dehydrated or freeze-dried strawberries, mash them up really well in like a mortar and pestle or a pilon, and add that strawberry dust to the cream cheese. What you don't want to do is use fresh fruit and add it to your cream cheese because it's going to make the cream cheese more runny, and that's just going to cause more of a mess. Freeze-dried fruit is drier, but it also has a stronger flavor of the fruit. So it'll make your cream cheese taste super good. You can also replace the cream cheese with something thick like dulce de leche. You can add cocoa powder to your cream cheese filling. You're gonna add like, I would add probably about 2 tablespoons or up to a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. Just mix it in with the rest of the stuff. You might wanna up the sugar by about a tablespoon, the powdered sugar by a tablespoon to compensate for the bitterness of the chocolate, or the cocoa powder. Have fun figuring out your fillings. I mean, I know people that add 3 fillings. That's a bit much for me, but you can always alter your fillings. But the traditional fillings that I've seen in king cake from Louisiana are cinnamon, sugar, and cream cheese usually. To store your king cake, I would wrap it, cover it in plastic wrap or foil. And I store mine at room temperature because, again, it only lasts 2 days here. You could store it in the fridge, but the downside to storing any bread or cakes in the fridge is that the chill air causes it to go stale faster. You can compensate for that by heating your king cake in the microwave for about 20-second bursts. Even when we store it at room temperature, that's what the kids do. They just heat it in the microwave anyways to give it that fresh baked flavor, which is, I mean, that's never a bad thing. Store it for up to 3 days. After that, it's kind of kaput. So you need to eat it before 3 days is up, which won't be a problem because it's bomb. You can freeze king cake. I always freeze mine before I glaze it and before I put the sanding sugar on it, because if you've ever seen sugar after it's been frozen and thawed, it turns into a runny mess. It liquefies. It is not cute. So what I would do is allow the king cake, the baked king cake, to cool completely. You can put it on a half sheet cardboard cake board. Wrap that whole thing in plastic wrap and aluminum foil. I do both. So I think you should do both. And freeze it for up to 2 months. When you're ready to enjoy it, just pull it out of the fridge. You can thaw it on the countertop or you could thaw it in the refrigerator. And then proceed with glazing it and sprinkling the sugar on it and all that stuff. Yeah. You can make the sanding sugar like a year ahead. And you can make it in different colors. You saw how easy it was to make the sanding sugar colored. So you can do this for Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, 4th of July. You can do it for a whole Juneteenth. You could do it for a whole bunch of different holidays and just store it in, you know, like a glass jar or something for up to a year. You're going to have to break it apart because it's sugar and sugar likes to clump together, but you just like do like that and it'll break apart. And store it in a cool, dry place like the pantry or a cabinet that's not near heat or moisture. You can also make the glaze up to a week ahead. Store it in the fridge. You're probably going to have to heat it in the microwave to loosen it up again, because once it's in the fridge, that melted butter will kind of solidify and you want to loosen it back up. You can make the cream cheese filling a week ahead and store it in the fridge in a covered container. And you can also make the sugar cinnamon schmear a week ahead too and store it in the fridge. Now those two things you're going to have to allow to come to room temperature or just above room temperature so that you can spread it without ripping the dough. Okay, so yeah. This is such a friendly recipe. It seems like a lot because there's a lot of components involved, but it's such an easy recipe to put together. And when you taste this king cake recipe, I have heard people that are from Louisiana say, and I'm not lying, okay, because I wouldn't lie on my king cake, from Louisiana say that this is one of the best king cakes they have ever tasted. And they're from Louisiana, so who am I to argue with them? I'm from the Bronx, so how can I argue with somebody from Louisiana? Multiple people have said it. Believe them. Don't believe me, believe them. Yeah. Thank you for joining me for this video on how to make a Mardi Gras king cake. You can find the full recipe for this king cake for Mardi Gras on my site, senseandedibility.com. I'm going to link to it down below, along with some of the tools, utensils, ingredients that I used, so that you can make your own king cake for Mardi Gras or for whenever you want to eat it. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it by giving it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. I mean, it helps me feel good about myself. And don't forget to sign up for notifications. I don't know if I have any outtakes. I think I did really well this time. In the meantime, I do wish you a happy and safe Mardi Gras this year. Enjoy yourself and don't earn too many beads, if you know what I mean. Bye.